All right, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at calculating percent of change. So the thing about percent of change is basically you are calculating how much something has changed compared to its original. So the basic formula of it is your percent of change is equal to the amount of change like I said, compared to the original amount. All right, and there's two types of percent of change. So when the original amount goes up, that is called a percent increase. And when the original amount goes down, shocking, but it is called a percent decrease. All right, so let's look at an example. So if Beth bought a pair of $75 jeans for $60, so she got them on sale, we'll say, we want to know what was the percent of change. So basically, what was the discount that she ended up getting? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the amount of change. So she went from $75 to $60. And we're going to compare that to the 75 because that was the original amount. So the change ended up being a total of $15 compared to 15, which ends up equaling 0.2 or 2/10, but that's our decimal. And remember, we're looking for the percent of change. So now we just have to make sure we change that to a percent. So in this case, it would be 20%. And because the price went down, it's a percent decrease. So she saved 20% on her jeans. All right, so let's look at just one more example altogether because they all pretty much function the same way. And you, like I said, you just have to determine, is it a percent increase or a percent decrease? All right, so John went from weighing 140 pounds to 155 pounds. So I'm going to take that 155, and it's the change from 140. Now, technically, you can, if you want to subtract, you could always do new minus old. I tend to just always work with the bigger number minus the smaller, because sometimes you'll end up with a negative number, which just typically means it's a percent decrease. But if you just look at sometimes I think it's easier just to always set it up as the bigger minus the smaller, and then recognize if it's a percent increase or decrease later on. All right, so it's 155 minus 140. His original weight was 140. So we already know it's going to be a percent increase because his weight went up. So the difference between 155 and 140 is 15 pounds compared to the 140 that he started with. And this ends up being about, it's not going to be exact, 0.107 rounded. So he's at about a 10.7% increase in his weight. So, like I said, that's kind of the gist of the percent increase and percent decrease. So if you just remember, it's always the change compared to the total, and then just making sure that you change the decimal to a percent in the end. And that's how percent of change works.